Hey, Kris back with another Through the Prism of Chrism 4.5-minute video cast. I told you yesterday we're going to give you a part 2 on how God answered prayer one day when I'd had people list some requests, and they come up to the altar to pray, and the Lord said, I want you to write down a request. Well, I didn't have a piece of paper, but I started writing on my hand, and I told you, when you think it, ink it. Well, I wrote on my hand Middle East, I wrote England, I wrote Canada, Cuba, Mexico, Central America, Philippines. And when I got clear down here, I wrote India. Now, when I looked at that word India, I thought, why would I write India? I don't know anything about India. That's so clear on the other side of the world. Well, I held that up in prayer. And yesterday we shared how God provided for me to go to United Kingdom and England, how he opened up the door in Cuba and different places that we went. I wrote the word Philippines down here. Now, Shane Grady here in Branson has a tremendous work in the Philippines. My wife and I were privileged to go there. Man, the power of God is heavy in the Philippines. Deb celebrated her birthday over there. We went ziplining over the jungle. It was a blast. We saw a zoo filled with crocodiles and so forth. Love Philippines. But the key is this word India. Now, I had a revival in Denver, Colorado a few years ago, and it has 600 people rocking church, and I'm excited about going. Hadn't preached in 3 weeks, so as an evangelist, listen, my pay is found out on the field, so if I don't get the revival, I don't get my bills paid. I'm excited about going, but I got a call early that week, and it was the secretary, not the pastor, and that's never good. She said, Kris, we're going to have to postpone the meeting till later. Well, when I hung up the phone, I about went into depression. I'm moping around. How am I going to get my bills paid? I needed that meeting. Well, I got a call a couple of days later from Tulsa, and the pastor said, Kris, we've got a mission conference this week, but we don't have our speaker yet. I know you're a busy evangelist, and this is probably asking too much, but you wouldn't happen to have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday open, would you? Well, I just got the cancellation. I said, well, let me check my schedule. I got back and said, wow, I just happened to have that open. Well, I went there. Instead of preaching to 600 people, I preached to about 50 people. But there was a pastor there from India who pastors a church in Oklahoma City. And he said, Kris, could you come over in a couple of weeks and preach to our college-age kids? I wonder how many college-age Indians are there in Oklahoma City. I get there and there's 200. We had a great time. Got a call a couple of weeks later. Can you come to Dallas and do a regional conference for our youth? I get to Dallas, 600 high school and college-age kids at a hotel ballroom. I get a call a couple months later. Can you come to Orlando and do our entire North America convention for all Assembly of God, Church of God, India Pentecostal churches, and be our keynote speaker? I said, well, I'll preach anywhere you put me, a morning, afternoon, wedge me in somewhere. They said, we want you to be our keynote speaker. I said, well, praise God, anywhere. I said, what do you mean keynote speaker? Wasn't Reinhard Bunke your keynote speaker a couple of years ago, and Paul Cho, pastor of the world's largest church, a couple of years ago? They said, we want you to be our speaker. Well, I went down there, preached to 3,500, mostly pastors and wives and leaders, and I started getting invitation from Indian pastors in Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, Chicago, and then Toronto, Canada, London, Dubai, and then, folks, I'm preaching in Mumbai, India, Bangalore, India, and then I'm standing before 30,000 people in one of the largest Indian annual conventions, and I'm slapping myself. How'd I get to this? I'm looking at a sea of people, and then it dawned on me. It's all because I wrote it on the bottom of my hand, and God took me seriously. Listen, be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. And now we preach to tens of thousands of Indians all around this globe and will continue to do so. And man, I love Indian people. I love Indian food. I love everything about it. God's given us a great breakthrough. Why? God shut a door in Denver, opened up a nation. I'm sitting here moping because God closed one door, but guess what? He opened up an entire people group to me. You know, God does that kind of stuff if you're willing to put him first and ask him. In fact, Psalm 2:8 says, ask of me, and I'll give you the nations for your inheritance and the uttermost part of the earth for your possession. But you've got to ask. You have not because you ask not. You need to share this with somebody else because we're going to share more testimonies this week on the power of breakthrough prayer. We'll see you then.